Afternoon YouTube, it is I, Danielle, better known as Danielle, a happy medium. And if you're watching this video, I'm still away, so hopefully I will see you later in the week. But in this video, up for topic of discussion today, and off the back of God knows how many things I see across Facebook groups and with connections to the word that is possession, I want to really make it as simple as possible for people to understand that there's no way that this can possibly go on, and that there is no way that anything can enter your energy field or anything can attach to you, you be taken over, be possessed by, demonic spirits, evil spirits, and all these types of things that I see so readily talked about, and so much fear that is placed upon people because of the lack of understanding of the actual soul and how things work. So in this video, I'm going to try and break it down as easy as possible so that everybody understands and gets it. Best way to put it is, here's you. You are the person. You're a happy, chappy kind of person. There you go. And what we have to understand is when we come from the spirit world, we are one. Now, there is only one person, one soul, which means there ain't no room for nobody else. There is no room for anybody to attach into here. There's nobody can get in here. There's nobody can get into anywhere, because all your body and all you're capable of is housing one soul in one body. Now, lots and lots of people talk about possession, and a lot of it is fear-based. So lots of people are fearful of things that they don't understand, and that's a real lack of knowledge or a lack of understanding. And because of Hollywood, because of a lot of films that you see out there like Insidious and Poltergeist, and we've all seen them, we know they're there. We have sort of bred an industry or a life of spiritualism or of the spirit world that poses fear, or that there is something to fear from something that is so natural. The communications in the spirit world is so natural. We are all a natural medium, where a medium is a person who is able to move their mind in order to be able to read energy or read energy of another world. But we are all a natural, whether it be a natural psychic who just reads auric fields or a natural medium. It depends on how far you're pushing your mind. But what we have to understand is that the body can only house and only hold one soul, which means nothing can get in there and nothing can get out until you go back towards the spirit world, when obviously the soul leaves the body and returns back home. So I see quite a lot of this possession, or talks of possession. Now, possession comes in many different ways. So many people say that they have people following them in the spirit world. They have people attached to their energy. They have dark shadows. That's another one that I hear quite a lot of. These are just, they have people talking to them, saying awful things, bad things. These are just some of the things that I hear and see quite a bit of. And none of this is true. None of it at all. The reason being is nothing can follow you in the spirit world, and nothing can follow you here on the earth unless you allow it to. And really all that will be following you is the loved ones, because if you're working as a medium, the loved ones are going to be getting ready to work with your mind. Attachments, nothing can attach to your energy, because remember, everything is thought-based matter. So therefore, if we feed into the fear of something maybe attached, something is attached to me, something's following me, then ultimately your mind is going to start feeding into that fear. Feeding in. And this is where we talk about being really, really positive in mediumship, because it's important, because our mind is ultimately what we think, what we do, what we see. If the mind isn't always in a good place, or if there is triggers going off because we have not addressed the self, then we are always going to feed into this sort of negativity. Now, dark shadows, I've done a video on dark shadows, so I'll certainly add that to you. What we have to understand is that the mind perceives and sees energy in many multifaceted ways. We all see the spirit world differently. No two mediums are the same, as I heavily promote on this channel. And everybody will see the spirit world differently. For example, when I see the spirit communicators, sometimes I see them in fully fledged people, sometimes I see them as just dark shadows, sometimes I see them as white energy. And lots of people see energy in many different forms. They come in many different colours, pinks, blues, green. There's many different colours in which that we see energy, but because it's black and because we associate negativity with black, we automatically assume the dark shadows means it's something to be fearful of, which then leads back into the fear-based thing. Then it's the one of people who are talking badly to us. What we have to differentiate here between what is ego and what is actually the spirit world. Now, my question to all my students, and the same question to you, what you have to ask yourself the question is would the place in which that all your moms, dads, babies, whatever it may be, would they talk badly to you? The answer in short really probably to that question is no. So therefore it has to be coming from a place of ego or a place of self, which means that we talk badly to ourselves. Now, you're only looking at me a bit weird and going, well, what do you mean by that, Danielle? Well, we talk negative. It is really easy to talk negatively to ourselves than it is to talk positively. We are all fear-based in some capacity. Every medium walking this earth plane, every human walking this earth plane have all got some kind of fear or trigger going off. Why? Because we've been living an experience, we've had experiences with different people, we've all got some kind of problem going on, whether it be trust issues, whether it be we've been hurt in a relationship, whether it be that, we don't talk very nicely to ourselves, we've had people put us down, we've had people talk about our work, whatever it may be, there is always going to be a fear which is going to set a trigger off. And this is where I talk massively about, and I think I talked about in the video just prior the other week, where we need to not only do this way, I'll just move over a little, not only mediumistic work, which is training, which I see loads and loads go on, and we need it. Everybody's training is valuable in some capacity. Either we need it or we don't need it. But not enough is doing the self-development. Now, the self-development is looking at you, the person, seeing where your headspace is. I do a workshop called Where is the Medium, which is looking at the self-development of my mediums and how much of the instrument, as the spirit world calls us, is being developed. If your instrument isn't developed completely, or the instrument isn't working to the best of its ability, it's a bit like a piano. If you're playing the piano all day, every day, and it plays really well, and then one of the keys break, the piano's not going to play properly, right? So working out with the self-development and making that key even work as good as it can possibly work, it may still sort of bang out a tune from time to time, but if we can get it working to a good 80-85%, then that's not bad there. Then we have what we call the natural development, which is what I do, which is working with the spirit world, working with your guides, working and understanding how energy works, learning and working with your guides to gain knowledge and experience, because the spirit world has massive amounts of experience also, or they have lots of knowledge which is valuable to your natural development of your mediumship. Because when we take any kind of training, it's always third hand. It comes from the medium, from their team, and then is delivered to you. And while that will work for a good 70 to 80% of people, the other 20% either won't get it because they don't get that person, or they don't get their logic, or they don't get their thing, or it's because it just doesn't quite work for them. So it's important that we're looking at all these three things, but massively in the self-development. Now, lots of us, because of the fears and the triggers and everything else that's going off, we will want to latch on. Each and every one of us in some capacity has what we call a codependency issue. It'll be codependency of what's gone on, codependency of a fear, or whatever it may be. And that will bleed down into your mediumship. So doing this self-development is really, really important, because you need to address your fears. You need to address what's really bothering you, and you need to understand why it is that you feel that you have to think of these things, or look at these things and think that these things can possibly be true. Because really they're not. It's just that your mind is telling you that they are possible. And when your mind give momentum to it, it will continue to breed and breed and breed and breed and breed until eventually your mind's got you thinking something's following you, something's attached to you, dark shadows, talking badly. And ultimately what will happen is you will get yourself into a state where you cannot get yourself out of unless you change the way in which you think. Now, what we have to understand as well, please, and what I would really like to talk to you just quickly, I'll just get my spray gun and wipe my board, is emotional issues. Emotional issues are we are all functioning people who run on emotions. The majority of us all have some kind of emotion. Some handle them a lot better than others. Some people don't cope very well with them at all. I'm quite an emotional little thing, me personally. I feel just about everything and anything that's going, whether it be mine, somebody else's, or somebody else's. And that includes with the spirit world. But what tends to happen is when we're going through an emotional issue, okay, the mind, here's the mind. The mind, remember, the mind runs everything. It runs emotions, it runs the lymphatic system, it runs everything to do with the body. And if the spirit world's using the mind, which they do, they are pressing upon different segments of different quadrants of different things in order for the body to do all the things it needs to do, or the memories within the mind in order to get the communication over. Now, if we've got this emotional problem going on, what can happen is the mind will start to shut down, or the mind will reject lots of things. Now, when it rejects stuff, it's because it's fear-based. And when it's fear-based, it starts to accumulate or make things bigger or worse. It's a bit like the saying, make mountains out of molehills. You know, you've heard that saying more than likely. So the mind will start to breed fear. And what then happens is we push the fear over to the spirit world, and then we blame the spirit world for possession, or we blame them for somebody following us or whatever. And unfortunately what happens is we need more discipline. But unfortunately, not all of us is as disciplined as we would like to be. So what we have to do is look at how we're thinking and check in and make sure that what is ours and what's the spirit world is the spirit world. It can only be the spirit world if you shifted your mind over there. So through the power of the thought, I'm going to the spirit world, I'm going to talk to my guides, whatever it may be. But if we're not shifting the mind, or we're not saying them things, it is the self, ultimately, always the self. And the self will always, the conscious mind will always overrun the subconscious, because this has more power, because we need more of it to do the day-to-day tasks that we do down here. So in essence, we're talking about possession. There's a few different things we need to be looking at. The ultimate goal is there's no possible way that you can be possessed by anything, because your body only holds one soul, which is only allowing one person, which means there's no possible way that anything can get in there. What you need to be doing, if you think these things are going on, or you think, you have to check in and ask, has there been an emotional issue? If the answer to that is yes, it's the self. So you need to go away and work on your fears, work on your triggers, work on what it is that's, making you sort of want to think these things. If you're in that place of worry and fear and anxiety, then you have to look at how to change the mind. Look at the way in which you're thinking. Look at the way you're projecting yourself out there to the world, or how you're projecting your fear over onto something that does not need the blame. And unfortunately, I see this an awful lot, and it upsets me as a medium, especially because I have a lot more understanding. I'll be honest, when I first started on my mediumship, I was a bit like this. I was frightened. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. There was all these extrasensory systems going off. I was having a lot of emotional problems, because most people come up onto the path either because of an emotional problem, they've lost a loved one, they've had a near-death experience, or they were a natural sort of medium anyway, but they didn't have stuff in place in order to, keep it sort of under control, or didn't understand it, if that makes sense. So I understand that position, and I get it, and I'm certainly not here to, say that, you believe in them things, you're a bad person. That's not what I'm trying to get. What I'm trying to say is let me educate you to understand that a little bit more, that really it is the self that you need to take a look at. It's the self, and working on getting you into the best place possible, because when you get into the best place possible, these things would never exist. And the science behind the back of mediumship, or the theory, the mechanics, will educate you to understand that there's no way that these things can go on, because ultimately the body can only hold one soul, which is your own. So in this video, I really want to talk about possession, and that unfortunately, as much as I hear people talk about these things, It's not possible. But I do not frown upon that. I would just like you to understand more about where you're standing as a person and how much can you change your lifestyle and not blame the spirit world, because bless the little hearts. You know, what you have to understand as well is let me put something to you. If you think there's bad things in the spirit world, okay, then you're saying them things are in the spirit world with your mums and dads and mothers and fathers and babies and dogs and animals and all them types of things. Then how can that be possible? Because according to the theory that you think, they live in heaven. So there's no possible way that them things can belong in the spirit world, because they're in a place of love. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? So it's really about the mind, where your mind is, and how much your mind is really in control, and how much you're blaming something other than yourself, because ultimately it is you that has the emotional issues, and it's you that needs to check in with you and make sure you're in a good place. So in this video, we've talked about possession. I'm thankful that you watch it. Hopefully you'll like, share and subscribe, and hopefully I've given you a little bit more knowledge and understanding there on how these things couldn't possibly happen. And hopefully for anybody out there who's maybe watching this video, maybe look and check in with you and see if there's some things that you can change in order so that you can be the best medium you can possibly be. I've been Danielle, better known as Danielle, the Happy Medium, and I'll see you all very, very soon.